The Molten Incursion wing is the second wing in Amirdrassil the Dream's Hope raid. It is home to Volcoross and Larodar, Keeper of the Flame. Very quickly going to describe how this guide is set up. The video is split into chapters for each boss. You can find them down below. The first chapter will describe the boss fight mechanics and each of the important abilities. The second chapter will be role-specific duties. LFR and Normal are practically identical, but I will make a note on differing areas. Volcoross. This is a single phase fight with only a few mechanics. However, the mechanics are extremely punishing if failed. This is a DPS race as the goal is to defeat the boss before the platform is consumed in lava. The arena is a giant circle with Volcoross remaining in the center. Before engaging the boss, split the raid into two groups. At 100 energy, he will create two soak zones on the opposite sides of the circle. The raid will start together, but after the first soak ability, the raid will be split, navigating each side of the circle until joining back together at the very end. A note on the soaks. It will knock your character back, so make sure you stand in the center, that way you aren't thrown back into the lava. Aside from the raid soaks, the other major mechanic is coiling flames. This will create a ring around your character and deal damage to anyone standing inside of it. The circle will shrink over 10 seconds, increasing in damage and then jump to another player once it expires. The final ability to watch for is the Scorched Tail Crash. A large shadow will appear on the ground. Avoid this. It is an insta-kill to anyone hit. Volcoross has two tank mechanics. Every melee hit will apply a debuff called Molten Venom. This is a stacking dot, but also increases the damage taken by Cataclysm Jaws. Cataclysm Jaws is the main tank buster. The main tank should hold aggro, accumulating Molten Venom stacks, and right before Cataclysm Jaws is used, the off tank should taunt. Volcoross's abilities. Flood of the Firelands. This is used at 100 energy. This creates two soak zones and will knock players back when hit. This creates lava on the ground that will continue to grow in size. Serpent's Fury. Volcoross hits all raid members for damage and applies some members with the Coiling Flames debuff. Coiling Flames. A circle around some players lasting 10 seconds. Deals increasing damage as the time goes on, and it jumps to other players once it expires. Scorched Tail Crash. This is a tail smash that is telegraphed by a shadow. Insta-kill to anyone hit. Volcanic Disgorge. Throws bile at some players. This will leave lava on the ground until the next soak mechanic. Then it will disappear. Molten Venom. Each melee hit applies a stackable dot to the tank. This also increases the damage done by Cataclysm Jaws by 50%. Cataclysm Jaws. This deals massive physical and fire damage to the tank. Role-specific duties. Tanks. Always stay in melee range. Taunt before Cataclysm Jaws is used. Healers. Serpent's Fury will deal raid damage over 5 seconds. Players with Coiling Flames will take increasing damage over time. Mechanics are punishing if missed, so expect heavy damage. DPS. Keep distance if targeted with Coiling Flames. Rotate through defensive cooldowns to help your healer. Larodar, Keeper of the Flame. This boss has two phases with a short intermission between. Phase 1 is all about correctly handling the mechanics, and Phase 2 is a DPS race, so save Bloodlust and Heroism for that phase. This is a healing intensive fight, so it could be beneficial to have a DPS swap over to healing. Phase 1. The arena will constantly shrink due to the ground being consumed by burning ground. The boss should be tanked on the outermost edge to give the party plenty of space to handle mechanics. In the center of the arena is the Seed of Life. Players will use this to extinguish the burning ground that is in your safe zone. The Seed of Life needs to be powered before it can be used. It is powered by treants. These treants are spawned by the boss as hostile adds and must be defeated. Once they are defeated, the raid healers can heal them back up to full life. Once they are healed all the way, they will run to the Seed of Life and begin powering it. Once powered, 3 players are able to use the Seed of Life to extinguish fires before it needs to be charged again. The other main mechanic is prepping for his 100 energy attack, Raging Inferno. The boss will spawn Scorching Roots. These will fixate a single player and charge them. This needs to be killed ASAP. Once it's killed, your healers are required to heal it back to full. Once Larodar reaches 100 energy, he will begin his Raging Inferno attack. If the Scorched Root was healed, it will activate and create a barrier for the raid to stand inside of. This reduces the damage of Raging Inferno by 90%. Blazing Thorns is his other ability. Just avoid the swirly marks on the ground. Furious Charge is the tank buster. This inflicts massive physical and fire damage, however the damage decreases the further he has to charge to the tank. So once casting, the tank should put distance between himself and the boss. Make sure you aren't running into the middle of the arena, as where he charges leaves more burning ground. The off tank needs to taunt immediately after the charge, as the next melee hit could kill the tank. Phase 1 lasts until 40% HP remains or after his third cast of Raging Inferno. Phase 1 abilities. Combusting Presence. Larodar deals fire damage every 1.5 seconds to the entire raid and causes him to leave behind burning ground. This persists the entire fight and will stack after each Raging Inferno. Seed of Life. This remains dormant until healed by treants. Once active, it can be used by 3 players before needing to be recharged. Dream Blossom. This is the buff obtained by interacting with the seed. Any burning ground that players run over will be extinguished. Fiery Force of Nature. This summons the fire treants. They leave behind burning ground. Once killed, they transform into a charred treant until they are healed to full. Fire Treants have 3 abilities. Melee attacks will inflict a stacking dot on their target, they pulse damage to anyone standing close to them, and they will explode once they are defeated. Scorching Roots. They fixate random players and pursue them until killed. If they make contact with that player, they will root the individual for 10 seconds. Once killed, they explode and become Charred Bramble, which then can be healed. Once healed, they become a renewed Bramble Barrier, which will protect you from Raging Inferno. Raging Inferno. This is used at 100 energy. This is fatal damage to anyone not standing inside the renewed Bramble Barrier. Furious Charge. This is the Tank Buster. It deals massive physical and fire damage. Damage decreases based on the distance he has to charge. Nature's Fury. This is the debuff from the Furious Charge. It increases melee damage by 500% and decreases over the next 20 seconds. Phase 1, role-specific duties. Tanks. Keep Larodar on the outside near the burning ground. Once targeted with charge, pop a CD and run away from the boss into the burning ground area. This is to control the amount of burning ground in your safe zone. Taunt swap immediately after each charge. Healers. Expect raid-wide damage the entire phase. Heal up Charred Treants, heal up Charred Bramble. DPS. Use a cleave build. All adds are the top priority. Space from adds before they die as they explode. Activate the seed and keep the middle circle extinguished. Constantly rotate through defensive cooldowns to help your healers. Intermission. The intermission is very brief. It begins when the boss reaches 40% HP or after his 3rd use of Raging Inferno. Larodar will use Consuming Flame. He will deal damage every half second and continuously pull players towards him. If any player gets too close, then you will take increased damage. Pop defensive cooldowns during this period. Phase 2. You can no longer clear the burning ground, so this is a DPS race. Pop Bloodlust or Heroism at the start of this phase. There are 2 main mechanics here. Falling Embers, which are areas that will be marked on the ground. These need to be soaked by at least 1 player. If failed to soak, they add a stacking debuff to all raid members and increases your Searing Ash stack. The other main mechanic is Flash Fire. This is a healing absorb. After 8 seconds, players targeted will explode. If they are not healed in time, it will stun them for 10 seconds. Other abilities to look out for. Occasionally, Larodar will use Ashen Call. This summons treants that will slowly walk towards the boss. Kill them before they reach him as they will explode. Larodar will also summon fire whirls, which are tornadoes that will move about the arena for a period of time. Just avoid these. The tank buster in this phase, Smoldering Backdraft, is unique as it is a frontal cone, so keep the boss facing away from the raid. This tank buster applies a debuff called Smoldering Suffocation. This inflicts fire damage every second and reduces all healing received by 100% for 18 seconds. However, it does leech health from allies that are within 6 yards. The off tank should stay behind the boss until after the cast so that they do not also get this debuff. Once the tank is hit, the off tank should step in front and taunt. The debuff tank should position behind the boss next to the other melee DPS to leech health from them. Phase 2 abilities. Falling Embers. A few soak areas are marked on the ground. At least 1 person must soak this, otherwise it will damage the entire raid. Flash Fire. Targets several players with a healing absorb. If not healed before 8 seconds, then it will stun the player for 10 seconds. Fire Whirl. Fire tornadoes will move about the arena. This deals damage and will knock you back. Ashen Call. The boss summons treants that will slowly walk towards the center. These must be killed as they explode when reaching players. Searing Ash. This is a stacking debuff that deals damage every 12 seconds. This persists until he is defeated. Smoldering Backdraft. This is the Tank Buster. It is a frontal cone attack that will apply the Smoldering Suffocation debuff. Smoldering Suffocation. This is the debuff from the Tank Buster. It inflicts fire damage every second over the next 18 seconds. This also reduces healing received by 100%. However, the tank will be able to leech health from allies that are within 6 yards. Phase 2, role-specific duties. Tanks. The main tank. Keep the boss facing away from the raid. Off tank should stay behind the boss until the boss uses Smoldering Backdraft. Then taunt and swap positions with the other tank. Tank with the debuff should stand with the melee DPS to leech health. Healers. Expect constant increasing raid damage as this phase goes on. Flash Fire will create an absorb that needs to be healed. DPS. Bloodlust and Heroism at the start of this phase. Soak at least 1 of the fallen embers. Pop defensive cooldowns if you have to stand in the burning ground. Treants are the top priority. So that's the second wing of Amirdrassil, the Dreams Hope Raid. Show some support by pressing that like button. Subscribe if you enjoy WoW content. I have guides, tips, tricks, podcasts, and more. Channel memberships are $1 a month. They give you access to extra content and are a great way to show some extra support. Links are down below. I'll see you in the next one.